Okay, so today we're going on a bit of a microscopic safari. But our destination? It isn't some far-off exotic jungle. No, the environment we're about to explore is one you know very, very well. Your own face.
That might sound like some deep philosophical question, right? But the answer is actually a very definite biological no. You are never, ever truly alone. Because right now, as you're watching this, you've got company. Millions of tiny, tiny passengers living on your skin.
So let's meet them. Demodex folliculorum and Demodex brevis. And get this, they're tiny arachnids. Yep, they're actually relatives of spiders. And they've made your skin their permanent home. They've been with our species for a very long time, just living their quiet little lives right under our noses. Literally. All right, so let's get properly introduced to these microscopic roommates of ours. What are they exactly? And what makes them so perfectly designed for living on us? Okay, first up, there's a key term we need to understand: ectoparasite. All that means is that they live on the outside of their host. But the really critical part here is that they are obligate ectoparasites. Think of it like this. A polar bear can really only survive in the Arctic, right? Well, these mites can only survive on us. Our skin, with all its hair follicles and oil glands, is their entire universe. And what's really interesting is that they've specialized. You've got two distinct types sharing the same space. Demodex follicularum is the bigger one with a longer body, and it's kind of a social butterfly. It likes to hang out in clusters right in your hair follicles. Then you have Demodex brevis. It's the smaller, more solitary cousin that prefers to live all alone, burrowed deep down inside your oil glands. Two different species, one habitat, you. Okay, so we've met them. Now let's pull back the curtain on their secret lives. We're going to dive into how they're born, how they spread, and how they live out their entire lives in this unseen ecosystem of our skin. So, how many of us are actually carrying these passengers? Well, the answer is pretty much everyone. While newborns start out totally mite-free, it doesn't take long for them to get colonized, usually from the simple close contact between a mother and her baby. And as we get older, our mite population grows right along with us. Seriously, by the time you hit age 70, it is almost guaranteed you've got a whole thriving community of them. And if you want some hard numbers, just look at this study from the Netherlands. Researchers looked at elderly patients who were having eye issues and found a staggering 94% of them had these mites. So at that age, these guys aren't the exception. They are absolutely the rule. Their entire life story plays out in just a little over 2 weeks. It's wild. After mating on the surface of your skin, which they mostly do at night, the female burrows back into a follicle and lays about 24 eggs. A tiny larva with 6 legs hatches, eats, and grows until it becomes a nymph with 8 legs. A few days after that, it's a mature adult, ready to start the whole cycle all over again, living for just another 4 to 6 days. It is a very fast, very efficient life. Okay, so for most of our lives, we're living in this totally peaceful state with our mites. But what happens when that balance gets thrown off? This is where our little story takes a clinical turn. Yeah, as one of our sources puts it so well, there's this really delicate balance. Usually these mites are just commensals. You can think of them as harmless tenants that don't pay rent. They get a place to live, but they don't cause us any trouble. But if their numbers suddenly explode, they can cross a line and trigger a condition called demodicosis. So it all comes down to density. For doctors, this is the magic number. Once the population of mites on your skin gets higher than 5 per square centimeter, you've officially crossed the clinical threshold. You've gone from harmless coexistence to a potential problem that can cause things like inflammation and skin issues. Okay, but these things are totally invisible to the naked eye, right? So how in the world do doctors and scientists even find them? Well, let's take a look at the tools they use to prove they're there. Well, they've got a few tricks up their sleeves. They can use something called a standardized skin surface biopsy, or SSSB, which is super accurate for measuring that density we talked about. A faster way is just simple microscopy. For a really high-tech look, there's reflectance confocal microscopy, which lets doctors see a live video feed from inside a follicle without ever breaking the skin. And for the ultimate in precision, a PCR test can actually detect the mite's specific DNA and even tell the two species apart. So, let's say a doctor confirms you have demodicosis. What happens next? The goal isn't to, wipe them out completely. That's basically impossible. Nope, the goal is to restore that natural balance. The goals are pretty much the same everywhere.
You want to lower the number of mites and calm down the inflammation. In places like the Netherlands, this might start with topical medications and really strict eyelid hygiene. Internationally, you'll see treatments like ivermectin cream, which directly targets the mites. And for cases that affect the eyelashes, simple, strict hygiene with warm compresses is a key first step no matter where you are. Now, while you probably can't avoid them forever, there are some really simple things you can do to limit their transmission. Since they move between people through direct contact and sharing stuff, basic things like not sharing towels, pillowcases, or makeup can really help. And just remember, they're most active at night, that's when they're crawling around, and that's when they're most likely to journey from one person to another if you're sharing a bed. And that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? After everything we've talked about, how should we really think about them? Are Demodex folliculorum and Demodex brevis just unwanted pests that we have to manage? Or are they a fundamental, ancient part of what it means to be human, a key piece of our personal microbiome? It seems like the truth is, it's a little bit of both. By the way, we put all of this information together using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive even deeper, you can find a complete list of all our sources in the Notebook LM document that's linked below. And hey, if you enjoyed this little microscopic safari, we'd love it if you'd subscribe for more deep dives into the unseen world all around us. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.